Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Simon Wright and I am Japan House London's Programming Director. Welcome today to this special online talk which explores some of the activities of Curator Takahashi Mizuki, Executive Director and Chief Curator of the Center for Heritage, Arts and Textile, CHAT, in Hong Kong, and Curator of the exhibition of the work of textile artist Sudō Reiko, now on display at Japan House London as Making Nuno, Japanese Textile Innovation from Sudō Reiko. This is the last in a series of individual talks highlighting the work of those behind the creation of the exhibition at Japan House London. Previous talks by Sudō Reiko herself and Saito Seiichi are archived on the Japan House London social media channels. So please note, for all of you who are joining us today, your microphone and webcam will be disabled for the entire duration of the event. However, please do use the Q&A, the question and answer feature, to type your questions for the presenter at any time throughout the session. If you do not want your name to be attached to your question, please check the option which is send anonymously. The questions that you send through will be collated by Japan House moderators, and a selection will be answered live at the end of the event. Please note that we may not be able to answer all of the questions during this session, but we will do our best. Please note that the contents of this event will be streamed live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, where a recording will be archived later. So this event is in conjunction with Making Nuno, Japanese Textile Innovation from Sudō Reiko, as I mentioned earlier, which ends on the 11th of July. So this is the last week that we have it at Japan House London. And today we are broadcasting from London and Hong Kong live. Shortly, I will be handing you over to our main speaker, Takahashi Mizuki, who will be joining us from Hong Kong. Following her talk, we will be able to answer some of the questions submitted by attendees through the question and answer session, as I mentioned, but please do send in your questions throughout the event and they will be collated. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Takahashi Mizuki, who is joining us from Hong Kong. Good evening. Hello.
Hello, Simon. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you, Mizuki, very much for agreeing to join us today. It's
thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me.
Not at all. It's a great pleasure. Thank you so much. For everybody watching, I will give a short introduction, if I may. So Takahashi-san is the Executive Director and Chief Curator of the Center of Heritage, Arts and Textile, CHAT, in Hong Kong. She completed her MA in History of Art from both Waseda University in Tokyo and SOAS at the University of London here in the United Kingdom. After serving as a founding curatorial member of Mori Art Museum in Tokyo from 1999 to 2003, Takahashi-san worked as Senior Curator at the Contemporary Art Center, Art Tower Mito, and realized numerous transdisciplinary exhibitions addressing various artistic forms, including manga, film, fashion, architecture, performance, and contemporary art. And this illustrious career that you have created already in curation makes us very proud at Japan House to be able to show some of the work that you have done. And I just wanted to tell people as well that the moment that I saw your curation at CHAT in Hong Kong for the exhibition that you did with Sudō Reiko and Saito Seiichi, I was blown away by the innovation of presentation and the fact that you were looking very much at process and also the secrets, the inspiration behind a lot of the process. And I thought it was magnificent and just exactly what we needed at Japan House. So from me, I have to say thank you very much for your vision with that. Thank you. So without further ado, I know you're going to talk about other things other than the Making Nuno exhibition. So I will hand over to you, and at the end, I will rejoin you, and we will have a time for some questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Simon. Such a wonderful introductions. My virtual background shows the permanent display of the CHAT, Center for Heritage Arts and Textile in Hong Kong, where I'm working for now. But as Simon introduced me, my background is actually not textile. So therefore, it's a textile curating. The textile actually is very, very challenging for me. And but I'm really appreciates. I heard the audience of the Japan House London really enjoyed the show, and I also appreciated that Simon said that this way of installation is also as innovative as Reiko's textiles. Thank you very much. So so today, unfortunately, I'm not going to talk about the textile things, because I also I received the kind of the request from the Japan House London to talk about my curatorial practice as a contemporary art curator. So I think it's a good opportunity to talk about my work experience with the two British artists. One is Julian Opie, and the other one is the Darren Almond. I created their solo shows when I was working for the Contemporary Art Center in Art Tower Mito in Japan. So I also had the great experience through working with them, and both of them gave me kind of very fresh lens to rediscover the Japanese art and the culture from their very unique lens. So today I'm going to share about a bit of my experience working with them. Okay, so then let me share the slide. Okay. So this is the first page of the slide. And on the right-hand side, you can see the close-up, the material which the Sudō Reiko that inspired during her travel in Mexico. Actually, you can see the real paper, so-called amate. It's a bark paper. It's the traditional bark paper made in Mexico. It's on your left-hand side. You can see the round paper. It's having the kind of mesh structure. So when the Sudō Reiko encountered this beautiful paper, she got the inspirations to make the amate fabric. Amate fabrics consist of the Japanese wash paper, that is a traditional paper in Japan, and combining the velvet. And if you go to Japan House exhibition in the Japan House, you can actually see how the Japanese wash paper is attached onto the fabric. And Reiko made a beautiful pattern, and then realized by the attaching the Japanese paper onto the velvet with a special glue technique. So sometimes, well, actually, says not sometimes, often, traveling to the other country gives the great inspiration to the artists and designers. And after the travel, the artist and the designer become the agent to migrate local technique and aesthetic to their own cultural and artistic context. As Sudō Reiko's amate fabric illustrate. So I'm going to talk about some other examples which I saw through the practice by Julian Opie and Darren Almond. So before going to talk about the art, I want to briefly introduce the Contemporary Art Center Art Tower Mito. It's located the east and north out of the Tokyo. It's about the 2 hours journey by express train from the center of the Tokyo. And this beautiful building is designed by Isozaki Arata. And the Contemporary Art Center Art Tower Mito is a cultural complex with the concert hall, theater, and contemporary art gallery, which opened in 1990. And especially the contemporary art gallery is the first, the contemporary Kunsthalle, really dedicated to introduce the contemporary artistic practices. So when I was working there, I was privileged to have the opportunity to work with the very strong artists from UK. One is Julian Opie. And Julian was born in London and is based in London now. And he has been known for his distinctive style of the visual language with a thick outline and the plain surface. And I can say that his works are amalgam of the encyclopedia of visual representations and pursued by humankind. And from Egyptian pictogram to Japanese anime and computer graphics, Opie employs various visual languages and mediums to portray contemporary landscape, portrait, animals, and architecture, which his eye captured. So when I created his solo show in the Art Tower Mito, he also showed the series of he presented a variety of his practices from the sculpture, animation to the painting, two-dimensional paintings. So this is some kind of installation shot in Art Tower Mito. He turned the gardens of Art Tower Mito into the zoo. And also this the LCD monitor working on the people's statue. And this is also the shot of an installation view so that you can kind of glimpse the scale of the exhibitions. Yeah, and so these the animations that some of you might notice the influence of their Japanese art is the ukiyo-e woodblock printing. So, and yes, it's that Julian is also known as a collector of the Japanese woodblock print. And it was the great honor to show his how he employed the Japanese, the visual language to his artistic practice. But actually, making this exhibition was great experience. But moreover, I had the great experience to publish his artist book. In parallel with the exhibitions. This gigantic, very, very heavy book with the 650 pages. And that is also, this book is actually showcasing how the Julian Opie is taken the word visual language and digest and to employ to his unique practice. For instance, it's as you can see on the right-hand side, as you can see the ancient Pergamon Museum, the frieze, and on the left-hand side, you can see how he interpret and transformed these the frieze into the contemporary visual language and adapted to the building, contemporary building. And again, this is also the formats and also the compositions, how he adapt And he also showed the how the human try to represent the people's way of working, and in their own medium at the time, and with contemporary technique and the medium, how we can represent. And that is also to show the how the way of drawing of the hair, the hairs of the human's hair. He adapted to portray the hairs of the portrait. Okay, so back to the his work, Julian's work is the landscape, the view of boat on Lake Motosu below Mount Fuji from Route 709. This work was made in 2009. It's around the same time that when the Julian had the show in Art Tower Mito. And obviously, I can see the relation with the Japanese woodblock print by Utagawa Hiroshige. It's a 36 view of the Mount Fuji. But obviously, the big difference is that he adapted the composition to the traditional Western, the landscape composition. It's a horizontal. And from the vertical Japanese or the Eastern way of portraying the landscape. And also in the Julian's work, we cannot see the outline depicting the outline of the mountain or the lake or the surface of the water. That's also the difference, big difference from the woodblock print. So I think it's that now you can see how he invent his own visual language by digesting the traditional Japanese woodblock print. Also, that these two on the portrait of the Julians and the other ladies, and those composition also I can see the relevance with the Okubie. It portrays by the Kitagawa Utamaro and the Toshusai Sharak. And in the Julian's art books, he generously showed how he adapt the movements of the compositions of the style to depict, the figure who the Julian actually made and portrayed. And also the three beauties, the portrait on present days and made by the Kitagawa Utamaro, 1794. And that composition is also employed by the three sisters' portraits. And you can see how he developed the compositions in portraying those three, the beautiful sisters. And what I was really interested in his way of the adaptations of the material, was the statue made by the Mikage stone, and that he engraved the dancers, different postures on the surface of the stone. And those statues are showing the erotic pose, and it's also the very lively movement. But actually, these statues also inspired from the stone grave, which is very typical, the gravestone in the Japanese cemetery, you will see. And he took the square shape and the way of the stacking or combining the stone, and create created these beautiful sculptures. So so now I'm really surprised how he transformed the kind of the symbol of the death, the monument, and how he transformed the monument of the death into the monument of the life. So that is my experience, and also that I also learned about the Japanese woodblock print, and also the outstanding visual language which the Japanese woodblock and the artist created. And the second artist is the Darren Almond. And we worked together in 2014 for his socials and entitled The Second Thought. Darren Almond was born in 1971 in England. It's actually vegan. It's the place is known for the George Orwell's The Road to Vegan Pier. And he is based on London currently. And he's addressing a wide range of the subject matters, from his own family memory to history of a modern industry. So Almond explored to capture the concept of the time in various media. So world travel sometimes brings the Almond to witness and expose the industry and its labor conditions and create the video works. Evoking emotional reaction from the viewers, his video works pose questions on human dignity in industrial development and civilization. So I invited him to make the solo show after the Japan experienced the Great Eastern Japan, the earthquake, and continues continuing their nuclear power plants explosions in Fukushima. And Darren has been known for his series of the photographs, the Full Moon. The Full Moon series was taken under the moonlight. So then the images show the how the landscape appeared only with the light of the full moon. So it's a kind of the showing the very beautiful the landscape, our eyes, our contemporary eyes tended to forget and then fail to capture. And he has traveled to Japan many times. And this is made when he traveled to Japan in the year of the 2006. And when he was invited to participate in the exhibition in Kyoto. And at that time, he traveled the Japan in different places and made a series of the full moon. Okay, so I want to show the installation videos of his second thought exhibitions in Art Tower Mito, which is in less than 2 minutes. Okay. So according to Darren, his encounters the Japanese culture was through his grandfather. His grandfather was a big fan of the Japanese garden. Japanese gardens also the influence on the modern, so the modern painter in France. The one of the representative artists is Claude Monet. And his Giverny garden is very well known and then often depicted in his paintings. And Darren, he got the special permissions of the garden. He had the opportunity to take the picture of the Giverny garden with the first sunlight in a very, very early morning. And so the images, two pictures on the screen that actually show the his photographs, so-called Civil Dawn at the Giverny, made in 2012. And so then his interest to Japan continues. And he had the opportunity to make the series of photographs plus video installations about the Mount Hiei. Mount Hiei is located across the Shiga and the Kyoto prefectures and known for the very important Buddhist temple, which was opened by the famous monk Saicho. He traveled to China in the 8th century and opened the Buddhist hall in the Mount Hiei in the 8th century. And so the Tendai sect opened by Saicho is known for the giving the significant influence on the Japanese Buddhist culture. So he took this Civil Dawn, and when he had made the video shooting for his the video installations, Sometimes Still is the title of the video installation. This was the images, 5 series of the photos. He took the first sunlight, like the Giverny series, when he traveled to Mount Hiei in 2008. And this is another series of the picture, Day for Night Sakura in 2006. The sakura is known as a flower, represent kind of the Japanese kind of mentality, and we also, Japanese people love to appreciate blossom of sakura blossom during the night. So the creating the very beautiful highlight of the white petals and in the darkness. But somehow when the Darren traveled to Japan to make to take the photos of the sakura tree in the night, he was unfortunate with the weather. So that's the nature led him to take the picture during the daytime. But in the post-productions, he turned into the sakura, tree photos in daytime. And then with the photographic manipulation, he turned into the sakura tree in the night. So they're generating the very mysterious beauty of the photo. Yeah, it's this, the photos for me as a Japanese, because sometimes, we say that these are, the Japan, the sakura tree is also the kind of the stand for the ephemeral beauty of the human life. So the Darren's photographs of the sakura remind me the kind of ephemeral nature of the human life. And so this is your installation shot of the sometimes still. He made out of the footages he took in Mount Hiei. So this video installation is about esoteric Buddhist practice, so-called 1000-day Kaihogyo on Mount Hiei, which I didn't know anything about before I saw this work made by the Almond. So this 1000-day Kaihogyo is also, unveiled. The practice is so-called the working meditations or marathon practice. And it's very, very strict and Australian practice. So it's a monk, appointed monk, the 1000th day over 7 years, which cannot be disconnected due to illness, and which has been completed only by a handful monks so far. During the first 3 years, the monk must make the 40 kilometers pilgrimage to the temple at the peak of the Mount Hiei every night for 100 days, consecutively. The following 2 years, see them perform the same walk every year for 200 days. After this, they have to start, meditation for 9 days without any food, water, and sleep. And so then in the 7th year, over 200 days of the practice, they must run 84 kilometers for the first 100 days, and then 30 kilometers for the remaining 100 days. The practice begins at the 2 o'clock at the night and end at the 10 o'clock the following morning. It's you can imagine how difficult to accomplish. So then the marathon monk carries the hemp cord and the short sword that's allude, so that if they stop this practice, they are forced to kill themselves. It's a really hard practice to achieve the enlightenment. So I didn't know that this practice at all, and also his installation shows, it's a kind of mental state of the Buddhist monk, and also how the journey of the enlightenment which monk experienced. And the last piece, and this installations it doesn't show the direct connections with the Japanese, the culture or landscape, but somehow connected with the with Japan, because this exhibitions again, I asked to Darren to make the solo show, and just after the Fukushima the nuclear plant exploded. So the Darren Almond also he has made the artworks about the energy industry. Perhaps his interest in energy industry is coming from his hometown, Wigan. It's known for the coal mine business before. So this video installation entitled Less Than Zero. He made he took the footage in Norilsk in Russia. It's known for the repository of the natural resources like uranium and nickel. It's known as also one of the most polluted regions in the world because of this energy industry. So the working experience with Darren, and he's interested in the industry and how industry is related to the art, or how industry is also can be transformed into the art. Perhaps that experience navigated me to what I'm doing now, working in the chat. It's because the chat is in-house in the old cotton spinning factory in Hong Kong. And this was the building before we renovated the building, so the Nanfun Textile Limited, which was operated between 1950s until the 2008. So now I also really enjoyed how industrial development has been giving the impact on the artistic practice, and also how we can translate industrial history into art. That's what I'm doing. So in this way, I really appreciate what Sudō Reiko present in their exhibition, generously showing all the making process and introducing all the labors practices behind the creations of the beautiful textile. So somehow I could show there's some connections from my practice as a contemporary art curators to what I'm doing now in chat. So that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mizuki. Thank you very much for your presentation. How fascinating. You've had such an interesting episode recently, I would say, but I can see the theme of transnational curation through all of this. So thank you very much. I have a couple of questions actually myself, if I may. To talk to the title of this particular event, which is Transnational Curatorial Practices, I wanted to ask, in your position as a curator in Japan with UK artists, as a curator in Hong Kong with other artists, Japanese artists or designers, what are the challenges of transnational curation? I say transnational maybe in the idea that what are the challenges in creating these connections which characterize transnational practice?
Yeah, I think it's that always, any kind of the exhibitions I create, it's a challenge is how to prepare the context, how to set up the context to introduce in each practice or artworks, or introducing the solo practice by the single artist or designer. In the case of the Reiko's exhibitions, Sudō-san's exhibitions, the reasons why I wanted to show the making process, because the chat is housed in the renovated factory, right? It's for me, the main protagonist in the factories are worker, but somehow the day of their presence overshadowed by the products, right? So therefore, it's important to show the kind of backstory, behind the object. So of course, I can imagine it showing the 100 beautiful fabrics of the Nuno, but I think I want to make the kind of the dialogue, the conversations between the the Hong Kong, Hong Kong textile workers and the Japanese, textile workers through the exhibition. even that they are present is somehow it's not physical. Physically, they don't present, right?
So what you're doing is, in fact, finding new connections. Yes, that's what you're trying to do.
Yes, in a way, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Just for everybody, please do submit your questions, and we will try and answer them when possible. You looked at 2 UK artists there that you gave us, for example, Julian, Opie, and Darren, Almond. These are UK artists presented in Japan. Were you satisfied with the response to the artists that you exhibited with the audience that you had? These were both at Art Tower Mito, yes? And the approach that these artists took to representing Japan. Were you satisfied with the way that the audience reacted?
Yeah, I think it's I very much. I'm really admire the approaches of those 2 different artists, and because they really pay the respect to the Japanese culture, and also the Japanese culture and arts, and so they don't they don't copy it, right? They're just taking from the east to west, right? They really interpret and the meaning, and that I can see the deep understanding of the essence of their the Japanese woodblock printing present, and also that Southern Kaihogyo shows. So then of course it's the Julians and the Darrens, they have the different angle, but I learned a lot how because the Japanese culture, and we sometimes as a Japanese we talk for them as a granted, right? But sometimes we forgot how to narrate, and how to narrate and how to find the vocabulary to explain, right? And I think it's their methodology and the visual language, and giving me another way of narrating those the Japanese culture and art.
I see. Thank you.
Do I answer to your question?
Yeah, yes, I think so. I'm assimilating some of the information that's coming in from the people who are watching as well. And we have a question here, which is related to just what you'd said, actually, from Yuta. And she's asking 2 questions. And the first question is, was Opie's work that you talked about specifically, were those works produced specifically for this exhibition?
It's actually not. Actually, so they so therefore, so that was a surprise. I think it's a timing to show that these the Japanese landscape series is really coincident. I didn't invite him because of those series of the artworks, but more like I was interested in the Julian's Opie's works because of my kind of the interest in the different the visual cultures. As you mentioned that as I have made the exhibitions of the Japanese comics, manga. Yeah, and also I made the exhibitions about the architecture and the design, and I can see the this kind of the cross-disciplinary and transdisciplinary cross-genre approach in the Julian Opie's artistic practice. And he's questioning about the kind of evaluation system, the kind of, the drawing the borders between the fine arts and the popular culture. So that is the reasons why I wanted to make the social of Julian's, but it was, the great supplies that he was making the Japanese landscapes series.
Thank you very much. I mean, the same was with Darren as well, I suppose. I'd like to add to this. His work with cherry blossom, for example.
Yeah, I didn't know that when he showed me the first proposals of the list of the artworks.
It's interesting how strong Japan has influenced both of these artists. But you know, you mentioned Monet and Giverny and how strong it runs as an undercurrent within Europe.
Yeah, but I knew that I knew both of their artists as somehow interested in the Japanese arts and the culture, but I didn't know how exactly, you know, they are digesting, you know, the influence from Japan into the and also the migrate into their practices. That I didn't know.
Some of it's quite conscious, isn't it? Especially if you and deliberate. Thank you very much. We have another question here. Thank you very much for the interesting presentation. In what ways do you think curatorial practice in Japan has changed or evolved over the years that you've worked as a curator? And also, after realizing the exhibitions of wide-ranging mediums, what led you to your current role at a textile?
Well, you know, due to COVID-19, I have been back to Japan since, you know, January 2019. So I'm not sure as how much my information is updated, but nevertheless, it's a good thing. It's more the Japanese curators are looking at the achievement of the female, you know, Japanese artists, and also looking into the radical, you know, practice by the Japanese female artists. They kind of, you know, they didn't get any the spotlight so far, and also. Yeah, around the time I relocated to Hong Kong, many artists also started to taking the subject matter from the you know, from the historical narrative, especially Japan experience before or during the World War II. I think that might be related to the you know, historical memory among the young generations has been faded, you know, and also the narrators or witness of that times also they started to disappearing.
Thank you. And so after realizing the exhibitions of wide-ranging mediums, what led you to your own current role at the Textiles focused institution?
Sorry, can you say it again? Sorry.
What has led you after your practice in various other medium? What has led you to your current role at a textiles focused institution?
Okay, yeah, so some textile focus, but I think it's I wanna emphasize this. We are not medium focused, you know, because a textile is related to text, you know, so it's also related to a lot of, you know, having the huge amount of the subject matters, you know, colonializations and the labor issue and the trading, you know, the also sustainability issue. Is because it's the textiles such a the versatile materials which we are using every day, you know. So I think as I can see the numerous possibilities in working on the textile.
Wonderful.
But as I say, you know, the textiles is because of the you know, achievement, the traditional kind of textile museums, which tended to show the very unique, you know, precious textile in the fabric, they're realized by the meticulous craftsmanship and used for the high luck people. So I think it's about my challenge is how to push the limit of the narrating the textile in museum context.
Wonderful, thank you, thank you very much. And I think you certainly did. I was greatly surprised when I saw the exhibition in Chat in Hong Kong, and wonderfully surprised.
Thank you very much. Yes,
it's superb. Thank you. We have another question. This is quite a challenging question, I think, but let's have a go, shall we? It's from Linda. Thank you very much. If you could send a message to young artists, who wish to build bridges to close cultural divides, is there any advice you wish you could give them?
I think it's just I think it's basically you need to go there, and also talking with the non-art people. So don't enclose yourself in the your familiar community. That is quite important.
That is good advice. Thank you, thank you. And there's another part to that, which is quite interesting as well to this question. How do you personally distinguish between appropriation of cultural work and appreciation?
Wow, that's a very heavy question.
It is, yes, it is a heavy question.
Yeah, that's true. It's a very interesting questions, but I think it's actually, in fact, this might be, the line between the appreciations and appropriations might be very ambiguous, and that can be very, very subjective, and it's also interpreted from the different positionality of the viewer. Yes.
One person's appropriation is another person's appreciation.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, that is thank you very much. A very good subject matter. Is I received. I think it's because it's thinking about the textile pattern, right? And this is also the fashion industry. Many fashion designers and the textile designers, taking the kind of the traditional pattern from the different culture, adapted to create the new textile patterns or, the fashion design. And that's coming from the affections or respect to the other cultures, but from the local peoples, it might be the appropriation, Yeah, so I think it's actually, so therefore it's quite important to show the behind the scene, is what kind of conversation is made.
That's a very good point. Thank you indeed. And yes, absolutely. And very much that is exactly what you've shown in the exhibition that we have at Japan House London for a moment. It's very much behind the scenes and the conversations that exist. Thank you. Extending on from that as well, we have a question from Vanessa. This is a very good question too. I think a lot of our life now is online. However, as a curator, you highlighted the importance of experiencing a culture on the ground. How do you think we need to guide this crucial part of human experience to actually be there in person rather than virtually? Is it more crucial now than ever?
Yeah. Yes, so as the art center directors, I would say yes. I think it's a crucial, and obviously, because I can, it's on site, we can make the spontaneous reaction, right? Sometimes, and which is difficult to receive the online, but this, I want to say this, the Zoom talk is very successful. Thank you very much. With some moderations of the Simon, and the crucial is human access actually there's in person rather than virtually. Yes, especially the textile, the one of the beauties in a textile is the tactility, but that is a big challenge in operating the chat, because it's normally we ask the people to touch the raw material like cotton, but during the COVID-19 restrictions, we are not allowed the people touch. And also we do a lot of demonstration in a permanent, gallery, but it's the social distancing rule. We had to be suspended a lot of the events. So, but I don't have the solid answer to the questions, but we still need in the middle of the process, how much degree the virtual experience can be replaced to the on-site experience.
Thank you, indeed. Thank you. And I think we're all adapting, aren't we? And just from my point of view, thank you, Vanessa, for the question very much indeed. The exhibition that is at Japan House London, curated by Takahashi-san, with the works of Sudō Reiko and the art direction of Saito Seiichi, was created completely virtually and in 3 time zones between London, Hong Kong, and Tokyo. So it shows that it can be done, and all credit to the team here at Japan House London and in chat in Hong Kong. Thank you very much, Mizuki, for all the help of your staff as well, and also the staff in Nuno in Tokyo, that it can be done virtually. It's just such a pity.
But this is a shame. This is in the Hong Kong show, we could present the touch panel. So 100 touch panels, so people actually touch, textiles, enjoy the different texture, and materiality that we couldn't present in London.
Absolutely. Yes, some of it we haven't been able to show, but we did create some new ones as well as a result. So thank you so much. Thank you. We have maybe time for one more question, actually. Sorry, I have one here. This is from Laura, and Laura is asking, do you feel that a curator can be critical in their profession? How do you practice critical points of view in your own practice?
Well, I think it's that's also that depends on the contents of the the exhibitions which I want to present, and I think as a curator can be critical. And for me, the in the case of the Nuno exhibitions, my critical point is to challenge kind of, conventional way of displaying of the textile. That is my challenge as a critical point. And in the case of the Darren's and the Opie's, Julian's exhibitions, to present the the Japanese culture and the rituals from the different the lens, so that it might be some people might take their representations as a Orientalism, but I think it's showing the form of Orientalism to the local people is also can be critical. That's also the possible to generate the discussion. And so then so because the Julian show and the Darren shows, so our major audience is the Japanese. right? And they also should have the right to see how the Japanese culture and the ritual can be seen from the non-Japanese people or artists, and how it can be described or portrayed.
Very good points indeed, and well thought out. Thank you so much. Mizuki, it's been an absolute delight. Thank you so much for joining us in the evening.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the all audience and the questions. I'm sorry I couldn't answer all of the questions, but I will ask the Japan House London to send me all the questions, which all of them become the very good for thought. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. Thank you, and indeed. Excellent points, and it was a very good presentation. I know there was a video in there that people can access via YouTube themselves, and so we will put the video link as well into the chat so that people can see that themselves. Thank you very much indeed. It's been wonderful. I have a few points just to go through before we finish. Our exhibition, Making Nuno, is on until the 11th of July here at Japan House London. So now is the last chance to see it and to see your wonderful curation in this exhibition. We also have the screenings of the films that go with the exhibition as well. They are part of the exhibition, which have been directed by Saito Seiichi's team at Panoramatics. We also have the last in the gallery tour series on Thursday. That's tomorrow in the gallery here at Japan House London. We have an associated event coming up, screening of the Lost Textile of Ryukyu with our partners NHK World, and this features Sudō Reiko in her visit to Okinawa. Just recently. We also have another screening with NHK World with Tango Chirimen, the finest texture in silk crepe, also a feature of the Nuno exhibition, where we have a small exhibit regarding textiles from Tango in Kyoto Prefecture. And we also have on the 13th of July coming up, AI Research in Japan, Challenges at the Riken Center for Advanced Intelligence Project. Please do join us online for that as well. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely wonderful to have you, and I hope we can speak again sometime, and maybe in person in London. Thank you very much indeed. Take care. Thank you.